Oh, yeah, we back at it. And like that, I'm back at it.
We back at it again. You Up Radio. It's been a minute, but we're back on set. What's going on? What's going on? It's your brother Be Free back in the building. Let me check on the team with the dream, starting with brother Will McKee. Are you in the building?
Man, I'm in the building, and it feels good to be back with y'all. What it do?
Always, brother. Next, the man with the plan. I hope you understand. Brother JC Pope, are you in the building?
I never left the building. They just cut the lights off for a little while. Here I am.
I hear you, brother. I like that. Last but not least, a man who is a production beast, super producer, brother D. Holla if you hear me.
Did you miss me?
We missed him, but anyway, we were on a little hiatus, but we're back. You Up Radio. It feels so good. So with that being said, we're going to try to jump right into it. And this past week, here in North Carolina, we had another teacher protest and walkout past Monday, and then there was another uniform walkout on Wednesday. Further highlighting this division with our policymakers versus our teachers, our public education system. And we recently had a bill to adjust the budget here in North Carolina that was vetoed with a secret call vote, but we'll get into that. That was called recently, that caused some uproar. But what I want to look at right now is just, where are we going wrong with this public education thing? Because we continuously see where schools are underfunded, under-budgeted, and just lack a lot of resources. And now we have a flight towards private and charter education. But it still seems like those that are under the line or in the socio-economic realm still seem to suffer in most cases. So I'm going to pass to Brother McKee and just talk about, where do we lie with some of these trends with the sufferings of the socioeconomic status or the underserved population. So, Brother McKee, I'm going to start the ball with you. There you go. You up, brother.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's a more important topic that we could start with. You know, I used to do a workshop on student success, and I used to start it from an urban perspective with the preamble with Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B.I.G. song, where at the preamble of that song, Juicy, he says, "This is dedicated to the teacher that said I wouldn't amount to nothing." Then he says, "And to the people that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter, it's all good, baby, baby." And that right there, that lets you know the continuum of a failed education experience leading to incarceration. So as Reverend Jesse Jackson used to say, we need to put more money into Head Start than we do prisons and jails, and we got it backwards. And conversely, Tupac even said, "Who would think in elementary I would see the penitentiary one day?" And when he says, "Who would think," you got to know, when you look at the grammar of that, that means in elementary school he had some hope of success in life. So there's nothing more important than K-12. So I'll just say it real quick. It's a public-private partnership in the sense that our underserved communities will always, until they climb out of that socioeconomic situation, will always need public dollars to even the playing field. So what jumps out at me on the statistics with education is how much hasn't changed. There's so much that hasn't changed. You can still take any set of data and look at a zip code, and with about 80% accuracy, predict that the higher the socioeconomic condition of the zip code, the higher the academic performance on average. One other indicator I'll mention before I hush my mouth: the college education of the parents is a equally huge indicator of student success. So we got to pay teachers more. We got to fund schools. There's no way around it. The vitality of the country is a direct product of the educational system and its strength or lack thereof.
Well, let me take it this direction, because we look at, because I actually marched as a former educator. Now I'm educating in a different sense, but with the 5 principal points of emphasis that was conveyed, like it's past teacher pay, okay? Because the state tries to tend to throw that in the face, but 2 things that kind of impact the communities we serve was the increase of the living wage, especially for certified staff in the schools that are non-faculty members, and expanding Medicaid, just so that our communities we support can get the health care they need and stuff like that, because we feel like if you impact the socioeconomic realm, then it would lead to people being able to reinvest in the schools, so to speak. But now you have those that push more so, especially when dealing with minorities now, that are pushing more of the charter agenda. So I wanna swing it to Brother D, because I know he has some direct ties to this aspect of do we feel like for minority children or children of maybe lower socioeconomic background, is charter school the answer, or what's the experience you've had with that aspect of education?
Well,
You
well, for me personally, I've had the aspect of being able to experience all 3. We sent our child to private school first, then the next year we tried public, and then we went charter. And charter seems to be the middle ground. It's kind of where he found his footing. And it's because they have the ability of independent thinking. There's a plus and a minus with charter. One, they don't get priority to any kind of state funds, although they do get some, but they don't get priority to it. So a lot of what they have to do is raise their own money. But they do have the independence of education. So how they include themselves within education is a little bit different. Like the public school systems go through Common Core, which is what we didn't like. And they go through classical learning experience where my kids go to school. As a result, with me being the head coach of the basketball team for the boys there, more than half of my team, about 3/4 of my team last season was on National Honor Society. So it's a very different dynamic in that regard. We don't really have to deal with a lot of, I guess you could say, downtrodden when it comes to education, because once they see that the kids are sliding off of that scale, then they are automatically mandatory given a mandatory tutor at that point. And that's whether you're involved in athletics or not. So there's an intervention program that happens for every student once they start falling in that direction. But it's because of the independence that they have now. Some charter schools, which is the other downside of this, don't have the ability to follow in anything other than, let's say, what's the way I want to put this? They don't have the ability to raise the funds. So sometimes some of the charters end up running like a public school in a sense, but without the public school funding. So they aren't able to kind of get up to code in some areas. So like in Durham area, for example, there are some good charter schools, and then there are some that aren't so good. But the good thing about that is, in terms of the number of them, that's on the lower end. But when you see that disparity, it happens statistically. It's a bloviated number because it's a larger number in our community, in minority communities, but it's because the number of the minorities are lower ultimately.
Let me ask. Well, let me swing it to Brother JC, because I want to ask, because I know he can see it from another realm as well. Brother Jason, I believe your father was in the educational realm. Let me ask your point of view. Can the public schools get it done, or do we just need to revamp the system, or can it be effective with all the flight and the popping up of all these charter schools and everything and specialized schools? Can it be done, and will it be done? You up?
I think for me, there's a couple fundamental things that should be looked at. One, I think to answer your question directly at first, with charter schools, I think some 20 years ago we were on the right direction and really examining the traditional educational model. What happened along the way, and along with the changing of federal leadership, changing of state leadership, you wind up having several different strategies coming together that don't always synergize with one another.
Right.
I think the challenge is being able to identify true leadership in today's age that is ready to address new problems with new strategies. I think we are still steadily trying to fix some new problems with some of the old solutions. Yeah, one of them is, which I think when we start looking at compensation as being one of the root evils of why we can't get good educators in the building and keep them there, I think that is one component of the problem. But by far, it is no different than what it's ever been. In any profession that you look in, one of the most disgruntled things is nobody ever believes that they're paid what they're worth. And we have someone that performs a public service as education, then you wind up running the ability to be able to see that's invaluable. So you really can't put a price on it. If you can't put a price on it, then you're going to forever have the disagreement about how much somebody should get paid. And so I don't think that should be the primary target of the conversation. What should be talked about is what is the model that allows the people to be in that situation to be successful. So we should have true leaders that are ready to come into the face of education and say, I'm going to do something that's totally different. I'm going to make sure that I have an impact. That may be, I'm going to put these children first. I'm going to get private-public partnerships so that I can fund some of the strategies that I have. Or I need more parental involvement. The problem that I see is that over the course of the last 50 to 60 years, we've tried to take a broad brush and paint it across the entire country, whether we try to use federal regulations like No Child Left Behind and think that it's going to take care of every household from Murphy to Manio, and that's not going to happen. One of the reasons why we've allowed each state to have control over the school systems, and then more specifically each county, in talking the state of North Carolina, is because there are things change within county to county and within community to community. What may be okay at McGee Charter School over here may not be the same needs that are over here at Ben's #1 Academy for Leadership. And I think until we stop and accept the fact that we all have different layers of issues that we need to deal with and figuring out strategies that are specific and curtailed to that, we're going to suffer through the same problems. And they're going to keep us spinning the hamster wheel on it's about pay. It's about quality of education. It's about the facility. I think that is the hamster wheel that prevents us from getting to a solution.
I feel you. And 30 seconds just to wrap it up. McKee, is it on the leadership? Is it on the policymakers? Is it on the business community? Where does it fall for retainment and success?
Yeah, the 50-pound elephant in the room, the 500-pound elephant in the room is not always facilities. We find in the data that socioeconomic, the level of the home, of the family, is the most predictable indicator of student success. So the facility be what it may, like JC said, when your socioeconomic reality is stronger, those children are exposed to more academic style learning. So they test better. They've been exposed to a collegiate vocabulary in the home. And when that's not present, there's some makeup that has to be done. So when you look at Head Start or year-round schools and summer programs, something has to be done to make up the difference for the underserved in respects to what they're not getting in the home and in the neighborhood, in a place of economic blight.
I feel you. And on that note, we're going to take a brief break, but let's go on this thought. When is it time to move on? Or when is it time to hold and stay fast? We'll be back in a moment. You Up Radio. You know what it is. Super producer.